A bit difficult. We are having huge problems. So let's see if anybody joins us here. Welcome to live chat. Obviously, we're on the iPhone, doing it the irregular way. And I don't see anybody joining us. There's somebody. Okay, you're here. And this is mainly to let you guys know we're not going to be able to do this. This is just not going to functionally work today. We don't know what's going on. Like I said, we had Wi-Fi problems through the week. And I didn't really notice the Wi-Fi problems because I was working on a lot of stuff offline. But everybody else was having problems and complaining. And then obviously that caught up to us today. Now, we had a Wi-Fi issue and we're able to correct it. Is it hot enough for you? You're funny. Today's only 105, so it's not bad. It's been like 111, 112, 113. It's been miserable. Yeah, it's really weird. So, yeah, so it's kind of strange. No, the internet has nothing to do with it. The Wi-Fi feed is just whatever's going on, and it's incoming to here because we have the boxes, the routers, and they're connecting, but they're not bumping anything. So like if I have a cell phone, it's working, but yeah, for some reason that computer in there's not. So Trevor's trying to go through different things and figure out what it is. He's gonna maybe do a shutdown on the CPU. We tried that and it didn't help. It didn't fix anything. So yes, so we're live. Yeah, we're live. So I'm in the garage. So letting Trevor kind of work on that, the bank, so he gets to see the laundry and stuff. So, well, you can, there over my shoulder. We'll see if we can get them. Those are the filing cabinets and some of the files and boxes and stuff. And more filing cabinets and lots of filing cabinets of all kinds of stuff, treasure hunted related. But if we ever get this set up out here nice, we'll have to come out and go through some of it. But it's all split up. The filing cabinets are in 3 different areas. And there's boxes everywhere. That's one of those summer projects, is try to pull this thing apart and put it back together the right way. On the upside, I get to smoke while we do live. On the downside, can't see the messages as well, and they scroll by. So, yeah, this is the problem with the world we live in, is it makes convenience for one thing, but it doesn't take very much to completely offset it and throw it out of whack. So, whatever the problem is, which is not technically, it's not you, but it's not our end, it's something in between, where our signal's going out. So I was hoping it would just record. We could, and I don't know, that wouldn't really be live, but I was thinking, wow, if we just recorded it and then everybody could see it in hindsight what I was talking about. But Trevor said, and it was not working that way. So it was just froze. Gonna watch your night video in the ghost ones. I'll have to do some nighttime videos. Well, actually, I wonder, yeah, it's gonna be hot in the summertime. I was gonna say go out, because you want a campfire, because in the summer you get a lot of bugs too. And with the bugs, it's pain. The other pain I hate is if you go live, you have to do it this format. You can't turn the phone sideways and have the other format. I think that's such a pain. You think somebody would figure that one out. But that's the problem with technology, is it's wonderful what it does for us and what we can accomplish, like today, and do lives and Wi-Fi and speak to people all over the world. And even in a troubleshoot in a moment, you can go offline and you can still reach out to everybody and still pop in something like this, and then boom, it's still compared to what it should be. So nothing's infallible. So there it is. But yeah, it's been very, very, very hot. Um, the nights have gotten warm now, so that means summer's here. Now we're getting into where you're out there at 10 o'clock at night and it's 90 degrees. So the summertime is here. Someone was talking to me the other day about, like, yeah, we used to go in during the monsoons and stuff. Well, we don't have the monsoons like we used to. We don't have it cooled down during the monsoons like we used to. We don't have the rain we used to get in the monsoons. They're so intermittent and unpredictable that you can't go in the mountains during the monsoons like you did in the 80s. It's just not feasible anymore. It's, you could just go out there and you can't predict the weather. The heat comes in and then it just sits on us. And then the weather, I mean, today it's mild. It's 105. There's no clouds. There's no air moving either, which doesn't make it very, but yeah. The last 3 days, it was like 111, 112. No real breeze, nothing moving, and no clouds, and it's just miserable. And it's early. It's, in about a month, I won't be dancing in it, but it'll be much easier to deal with. Everybody keep talking a bit because that's allowing me to see that this is working. I'm hoping that this is not going to hang up. And I don't know, like we said, and you can have those times where you're in an area of solar flares or different types of outages. So that's what it is. So I hate to, like, that kind of stuff to happen because it kind of makes you feel like, I shouldn't even bother then. But yeah, I want to figure this problem out and kind of get through them. But yeah, and this was one of those weeks where I talked to Shoes and I talked to Ron Feldman, and I ended up on the phone with Jesse for quite a while at one point, and Greg Davis, and then I ended up talking to who else? So got John, Shoes. I talked to a lot of people, but there was a lot of long conversations. Frank and I were on the phone for quite a bit. Well, we're working fine now because I'm just on my phone. I gave up on the CPU. So Trevor's in there trying to dismantle. Yeah, the big project I had was I had somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 slides on some I had uploaded from color slides of collections. So there were some black and white ones, and I wanted it from there was a few from the 30s and 40s, but most of it was the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and the Superstition Mountains and stuff. So I wanted to go through those, but I had to upload them, and now I'm having to rename them, having to go through them and put on what they actually are. So that was kind of the project the last few evenings I was doing, and I'll be doing again tonight. So that's something to kind of do that. I can't wait to visit the Superstitions next summer. Yeah, you can. And all over the Southwest except that area. Go. I'm Northern Oregon. Come during the fall, not the fall, winter. Come between November and April. So December, January, February, March. Best time of year. It's still going to be possibly warm some days, but it's not going to be this. This is not fun. Not fun at all. It's just, and the worst part is here in the next month or so, it'll just be that flat, dead heat. I like the heat. What will be made? Yeah, I like the heat. That's what a lot of people say. People say I like the heat, man. Yeah, I've been here for a long, long time, and I work in the heat and everything, and I can tell you, I don't mind the summers, but it is hot, and it's too hot to do certain things. It's, it's just ridiculous when it's, if you don't have gloves, you pick up the shovel, and the wooden handle burns your hands, blisters your hands. It's just ridiculous because of the heat. So it is what it is. Blind Frog Ranch. Looked like someone dug up a DeGrazio canister in Utah. Yeah, not a DeGrazia. I think they're going to play the uranium thing or some weird thing. I don't know. It's hard to predict with that show where they're going next. I The Josh Feldman show at Blind Frog Ranch. I kind of look at it sometimes when they say stuff and then they cut to Josh, and I wonder if we're going to see Josh's eyes fall out of his head and hit the table. Like, what? What did you just say? There was some big time problems. They have a production problem, not to mention a lot of other problems, but yeah, there's a production problem of when you're swimming underground in a cave, you got to quit using the scenes that show the sunlight behind you still coming in. There's a lot of continuity problems, and I wish they'd fix it, because the idea is for you to suspend the belief and be able to immerse yourself in the show. And when you do stuff that's just lazy, that's a problem. You didn't spend enough time getting the shots, so you're reusing footage, and some of the footage you shouldn't be using, and you're using them out of context and order, and it's causing a problem. So, and that means you're recutting the audio, and yeah, that's a shame, because and it's not fair to any of the guys doing the show one way or the other, because they look like the goofs. It's not the guy who's being paid more money sitting there editing the show, or the producers or the other people that should do better job. It's the guys on the show that look like the fools, and that's a shame, because it is not their fault. They did not do that. We went in June last year, and it was awful. June's not even the bad part. Yeah, July, I say July, August, September, and then some of early October is the bad part. That canister seems you think so? I don't know, but it's not whether it stays or not. If you do it right, it's entertaining. And the problem was, at times they do stuff that make you go, what? You reach for your phone and start Googling stuff, and then you're like, what? What did they say? Did they really say that? So that's my problem. Some strange things they say and do. But that being said and done, could fry an egg today. Maybe that's what we'll do live one of these days with the iPhone. We'll go out and fry some eggs. We'll take a piece of, I'll find out. My neighbor does welding. He'll have a couple pieces of flat metal. We'll go out and fry eggs out in the sun. That would be fun. People to watch that. Watching eggs cook. We can do it on the concrete, but it gets in the concrete and then it stains it. Has blowing up smokes people butt problem. Yeah, well, at least it's more imaginative. And the problem with Oak Island right now is they've been around for so long, they're kind of like treading over themselves. So there's a little bit of repetitiveness, and they have a loop that they play into. Blind Frog Ranch is just, they got some people writing some serious, strange fantasy novels on the creative team. And I don't know sometimes what's up and what's down with them. I've never tried bacon. That would be interesting to see how the bacon cooks. I do have a piece of flat sidewalk, real smooth, flat concrete out back, which would be a good griddle. The downside is it would be perfect for this, and the big downside to it is, while it would be perfect for it, is that's where the dogs like to urinate. So it's always like, so it would be, you couldn't even try the eggs. You could, but they would taste funny. I'd rather take peyote. I don't know about that. I'd rather just sit there in the cool air conditioning with a cool drink and watch Blind Frog Ranch than take peyote and throw up and later try to figure out what the hell was I doing and why am I naked and why is the toilet out front in the front yard? What happened in the last 3-4 hours? Hi everyone, happy Friday. Well, Diane showed up right after the peyote, cooking eggs on the sidewalk and other problems. And yes, Diane, We're on the iPhone because we buffered, tried to put it back up twice. This one may not be in the archives because it's just a pain with these. But yeah, we cannot get our Wi-Fi straightened out. Ever since this last week with the heat, we've been having some problems, and I will have to check with my neighbors, but I think it's going to be hard because this is a particular problem I seem to be having with streaming, and I don't know if anybody else around me streams. So that's always a problem because I can see YouTube and, you know, they're the TikTok, Instagram crowds and stuff like that, and they may not be having the same problems I am. But we get to watch me smoke today. That's another thing when it gets really super hot. Unless you can find some shade, you don't want to smoke either because it's just everything's hot. It's just really hot. So, and today was, you know, like I said, last few days was miserable, but today they said it was going to get hotter than it was. I was not looking forward to. And then I went out and it wasn't terrible, but with no cloud cover. We had one crew sitting on the ground getting ready. They're going to have to go under asphalt. Tunnel under asphalt, probably about 80 to 100 yards. It's going to take them a couple days and stuff. And those guys were sitting there because the location crew was running behind, and they were just sitting there trying to stay in the shade, waiting to start digging and start working on everything. And I felt terrible for them because all their equipment's just sitting in the sun, and they're sitting there and you're just hot. And at least if you're moving and you're sweating, you're getting a little, you know, stop here and there in the shade. You can get a little relief. They bring umbrellas, try to do what they can to put some shade over them. But I was feeling bad for them because there's nothing worse than when it's miserable hot like that and it's just hot. 117, that's always fun. It's always good when you get up over 115 because that's when you turn to someone and realize they're not there because they just melted into the ground. I am sure Hunter's best. Does your crew start early and split? Everybody works different shifts. Depends when the jobs are, the work is. It's all dependent. I was thinking the other day, jobs that I thought were more miserable than I had to do because I used to roof and I did frame. Roofing was bad, but the worst jobs to me are hot tarring during the summer in Arizona because the hot tar works better. Asphalt in summer in Arizona. And the guy that's up in the attics blowing the insulation in the summer in Arizona. I mean, just working in the attic's bad enough. But those guys up there blowing and stuff, I never met one of them. They'll probably weigh over $125. It's like they can't keep weight on. That's the worst. That's probably the worst. But yeah, I remember plenty of hot days. Guys coming, you know, guys passing out and stuff. And it just can happen to anybody. But yeah, everybody tries to start early, but it's a 24/7 job. So unfortunately, like right now, a lot of crews working on utility poles, replacing utility poles and doing a lot of work that they can. They will run lights and work at night. They will do night work. Especially, definitely when it's around commercial stuff that they can work late at night and not affect them. They're not affecting traffic and stuff, but it also helps them with the weather. So you kind of switch shift like that. But there are 24/7. There has to be somebody up and working all the time. Hello, new here. Well, there you go. It's 108 degrees, near perfect weather. Sorry about this. We are not on our normal camera in studio today. We are on my iPhone out in the garage. Susie B, or is it Sophie? Susie B. And yeah, we are having a Wi-Fi problem. We're going to blame it on solar flares and an alien invasion. Nice. I wonder what your trade was. It was everything. I worked construction. I worked framing. I worked for Shuck & Sons for many, many years. I was a trim carpenter also. I did concrete work and concrete forms and poured concrete. Also worked as a roofer and laid roofing and did flat roofs and everything else. I did made shingles by the square. And then now I work for an electrical utility company. There you go. I had the wood stove going this morning. Well, good for you. I didn't. I'm going to turn this fan this way because I have a problem that I'm standing here. I looked over, it's 107 in the garage, and I didn't have a fan on me. It was hot, so you can tell my face was turning red. Never forget driving concrete truck in back 80s. No, well, that was something that Shoes and I talked about, because I told Bob Shoes, the first truck that I ever ran AC in, that I ever had air conditioning in, was the Bronco. I never used it. In about 2000, when Trevor was born, I started running the AC in my truck. Until then, I never used AC. I just rolled down the windows, bought a big gulp, and kept it in the vehicle with me. And anybody that knew me back then would say, yeah, that's what we did. We bought big gulps and drove around and drank soda all day. Or even before that, when you could, in the 80s, you would drink Coors Light and stuff, have a cooler, and just drive and drink that, just to keep yourself hydrated as much as possible. But that's how we got around. I don't remember air conditioning working very well. Everything was always hot. I never used AC. Then Trevor was born. The problem was the Bronco had no rear AC, so I had AC up front, but it didn't really do much. And then when I traded in the Bronco and got the Lariat, I got good AC for the first time. So that was, I don't know what year. I don't remember what year. But when I got the Lariat, I had AC front and back, and I had good AC, which today it's like I turn on my truck and it's hot, and it, you know, the trucks now you can auto start and start your AC and pre-cool the trucks. But it's, yeah, nah. I didn't have AC forever. Hey Dallas, what's up? I was a laborer. Inspired me to become a surveyor, because you like standing in the sun holding sticks. There you go. I always feel bad for those guys too in the streets, because they always kind of like, you tell it's 110. I'm standing here in the middle of the asphalt holding a stick. The cars are whizzing by me, and one of these guys in Sun City or someplace, one of these folks are just going to take me out anytime. Hey everybody, hey there Gerard. Okay, retired painter, musician here in 60 North Central Washington State. Know some people up in Washington State. Hope they're doing well. Just talked to a mother of one of them, and she said they're doing all right. I know it gets warm up there. Is it there or Oregon? One of the two. It does get kind of hot. They do bake a little. Nothing like here though. Nothing like Arizona. Arizona, New Mexico, Western Texas are very unique to themselves. Utah a bit, and Nevada can be very unique. But, you know, it's a dry heat, so don't worry about it. So it's not that bad. Yeah, come on out, take a hike. It doesn't matter how much water you drink. Which is the problem we have. They've closed a lot of the parks and a lot of trails and a lot of stuff because people tend to be stupid. They tend not to think very much about the ramifications of, well, I'm in great shape and I'm hydrated really good and all this and this and this and this, and you never know what's going to happen, and that's what happens to people. So is the pay not worth it for being a surveyor? I ask as my nephew. I don't know. It depends the company. Everything is about the company you work for. Chris hundreds down and out. What's up, Wayne? Greetings from Nashville, down in Nashville, Tennessee. I will always say this about any job: the company you work for and how they treat you is the difference. That last video was a lot about that. There are people that will not change and will run companies badly and treat employees badly. There are people that will treat employees indifferently, which is, I guess, okay. But there are places that will treat people very, very well, and they're the harder to get into. But once you can break into them, you find, oh, this is why people stay here. Um, I know there's a number of companies people are always very happy once they get into. Usually, some of the bigger corporate structures are pretty good. Your problem is staying out of management and the politics. Because you always think of the big monies in management, which it can be, and you can make a lot of money in management. But in management, just because you understand the principle and understand how it should be, or you focus a certain way, doesn't mean other people won't. And the politics in management, what I always find is odd, is because someone has a different opinion of how things should be managed, they will try to sabotage you or cut you off at the knees, because it's not jealousy, it's just they don't like that your guys like you and their guys like you. I've had that a problem before. It's like, well, it's easy to be liked when you're, it's like, no, you don't have to be liked. You'll be liked if you treat people decently. So, and I've had very few people complain. I'm sure there's a few people out there that are probably narcissists or have some sort of issue. God, I thought this was hair hanging down under my hat, and it's just my shadow. But there are people that I'm sure disagree with how I did things that worked for me. I think it's because they would be disagreeable with almost anything unless they get paid bags of money for doing absolutely nothing, and someone just let them slide their whole life. And there's very few jobs that are going to do that. So there you go. I retired from a chemical engineer. We're talking about jobs. Well, when you're young, it's hard to listen. You're just trying to figure things out. You're just running along, and it's hard. And it's like in management, you have to work to be a good boss, or understand or see what works and fight for that and make it work. You have to have bad bosses. If I didn't have some people there was a couple people I would say were evil. If you don't have the bad ones and see what's going wrong and then work for the good ones and then question and ask them something, you're not going to get it. Obviously the terrible bosses are going to give you terrible answers, I do know there's certain ways you have to be regardless, and I will always agree to that. You can't be everybody's friend. You can be friends, but you also have to take some of the friendship out of the work. The guys want to go all stop off, have a beer. I learned from someone that just stop by the boys around, and then just move on and out. You don't sit there with the boys. It's unfortunately just something that happens. But it works. It will work in its capacity, and you let them know. It's just like, this is the way this works. But we have a great relationship, a great working relationship. I always say, if you have 20 people that work for you and you don't know that if they're married, if they're single, that their spouse's name is, what their children's name is, what their pets' names are, if they've been working there more than 6 months, then you got a problem. You should be able to interact with people enough to know who they are and them, because that also allows them to talk to you. Not complain, but allows them to talk to you, and they won't be afraid of you, and it tends to take the liars out of the equation. Just people, nice people. I'm not wrong. Don't say that to other people, because they always want to try to point out how I'm wrong. How did LaBarge get his name? Phil LaBarge. He was a rancher, so they named it LaBarge. And Charlie Boy was after Philip Charlie Boy, right? No, it was Phil LaBarge. What was Charlie Boy's first name? Martin Charlie Boy. And then John Irian was Iron Mountain. Yeah, a lot of the mountains are named after ranchers. To be honest, I don't think any young ones are even watching this. There are a few. We get a few people. I think the problem is we don't have enough nonsensical Monty Python, Benny Hill kind of stupidity humor. If we were just ripping on each other, you get a little of it with Frank. We had a younger audience when Frank and I just did stuff out in the field live. There was a bit of a younger audience. It was a little bigger audience, and you would get some of it because they kind of like that sort of thing, where you're not being as serious and it's just kind of like put down city. Which if you're around me and Frank, a lot of times we're just throwing insults just out of love. And that's fine, but we were still seriously intent on what we're doing. But they don't care about the content or how serious or how real it is. They just are there for the joke. And that's where a lot of people I work with, a lot of people I know have a lot of podcasts and YouTube channels and stuff. We talk, and I'm like, I like where I'm at because it's honest where I'm at. And I don't know how sustaining their stuff is, because it doesn't take much someone to get mad in a group of people that are working together, and then it just all goes south. Can't fire my son though. Do you ever go to the Bradshaw Mountains? Yes. Woody goes out there quite a bit too. I'm 46. Is that considered young? Well, if someone's 89, that is maybe. Yeah, 40. Can anyone top that? I'm 40. I loved when you all were in the mountains. Very cool. We have still a lot of stuff we film. That's young to me. Yeah. Come on. When I have to see myself on camera here. If I don't see myself, I try to figure out why certain joints hurt and why I'm tired more than I should be and stuff, because I don't think in terms of my age at all. I'm ridiculous like that. I have changed certain things I do. Certain behaviors have changed, but I don't think in terms of age. I just think it's just universal. I think once you've gotten by the age of 30, all ages just all become the same to some degree, because the gap between you at 25 and someone at 18 is a lot larger. When it's 18 to 10, it's a lot larger. When it's 15 to 6, it's a lot larger. When you're 50 and someone's 45, it's not big. When you're 70 and someone's 55, it's not very big. It just changes. The older you get, even the distance on that, you've kind of lived life, and it's just kind of changed. Now, it also depends on the person's maturity. There are some people that are just very immature. Have you ever heard of the name Azatlan? Yeah. Almost being the capital of Arizona. Well, I don't know about Azatlan and it almost being the capital of Arizona. I don't know about that. They came up with a lot of things because, let's face it, Phoenix, I'm sure they had a few names. Usually the guy that had the most money and the most influence in the moment named things, and his buddies and him would kind of stronghold it. So I'm sure everything had multiple names, and even when they were first named, they were still referred to as other things. It's like I still think of Black Mountain as Charlie Boy Mountain because it was Charlie Boy Mountain, and now it's Black Mountain, and it kind of is almost part of Peter's Mesa, but it's kind of like, for a lot of people, it's all confusing. But it's just like getting into the whole thing of Willow Spring is now Peralta Spring, and Peralta Canyon is now Willow Canyon. And you'll find a lot of documents and stuff saying Willow Canyon, Willow Spring, and then you'll find them saying Willow Canyon / Peralta Canyon, and then finally it just became one. So, but it was just depending who had the biggest stick at, I guess, the time where it just did that. Will Frank and Woody join us at the rendezvous this year? Woody will. Last year was a salmon trip. Woody will be there. Frank has been more interactive, so we will see. You got to remember, Woody still just likes people. For Frank, I get when you get older, it's like, do you really want to drive back and forth a couple different days and hang out all day at that stuff and all that? I kind of get it. I think you can spare yourself a day or two a year to do it, and spend some time. I think, well, Frank and Woody don't have much of an excuse. I get for other people, it's like I had to work all day Friday, and then I came in Friday night, or I'm going to come in Saturday night for a couple hours, but I don't want to spend most of the evening there. And I kind of get that. And there was a lot of people that never stayed in the camp, but there was a time we were younger. Think about it. Rendezvous has been around for 21 years. 20 years ago, the night crowd sitting up drinking, talking, was talking till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, drinking. That crowd now is 20 years older, and that crowd was in their 40s and 50s then. So it's a little different as you get older. So that is another thing. We don't have that younger crowd. One thing I will always say is we had a lot of alcohol tolerant people. We didn't have too many problems, you know. There were people that couldn't walk, couldn't drive home, and we had to deal with things. But no, can't jump out of the back of a pickup. I'm often mistaken for a grown-up because my age. That happens. Hell, I won't jump out of the back of a pickup. Don't ever grow up. That's right, Frog. There's things I quit doing because of stupidity, and one of them was I had a flag up on the house, and I was too lazy to get a ladder, so I decided to use a trash can and took a chair and walked up on a trash can. But then when I leaned, there's wheels on the back of the trash can, so the trash can went one way and I went the other, and I went through the chair into the concrete, which was painful. I mean, watch wrestling, you can say it's fake. It's painful when you go down through the chair into the concrete. And my wife, when she got home, saw me battered and bruised laying on the floor, and I told her what happened, and she said, "What did you do when you fell?" And I said, the first thing I did was look around to make sure nobody saw me. And I said that I pushed the chair up into the garage, and I crawled up into the garage, and I got up to the front back door of the garage, and I was able to get up enough to reach up, hit the button, and shut the garage door, and crawled into the house. That was me. So, I mean, and I still got on the stupid trash can and tried it a few other times and almost fell too. So, and I think I was in my 40s when I did that. So, you know, I always hope I progressively got a little smarter, but I can't say that I have. I went up a lot of shafts, feet in front of me, back against the wall, shimmying up them. And it never occurred to me after 30, 40, 50 feet, what happens if I slip? Because I had no rope. What happens if there's nothing to grab or no way to get out the top of this? What if it gets too big and I can't, you know, what am I supposed to do? It's weird because you don't think, when I was younger, I didn't think of that. I would come out of the mountains with my back completely torn up, just scratched up and bloody, and my shirt shredded. And I thought it was a good day. But it was stupidity. I was surprised. I'm so surprised I didn't really seriously hurt myself in a lot of things I did. So that's, you know, is that growing up? I guess so, but I was late at it. But I think having kids helped, because I started thinking about, oh yeah, I gotta get home, you know, the kids, you know, so that changed some of my behavior, having children. But yeah, until I had children, I was a danger to myself. There was the one time we were driving up the Senator Highway, and the lower part up by Lake Pleasant, and we were up in there, and I had this Bronco that had a granny gear, and I put it in low, and I was doing something, and then I had to get out of the Bronco, and I let it drive by itself. It was fine. It had a good stiff steering wheel. It was crawling up this road because I had to put myself out, because I had this lighter, and somehow when I dropped it in my pocket, I lit myself on fire. My shirt was on fire as I was like in the truck, so I decided to get out of the truck to put it out. And I remember who was ever with me. I think my father-in-law was at the time. He couldn't figure out what's going on. There's fire in my shirt, and I'm ripping off my shirt, and I'm dancing around, and my truck's going up the hill by itself. He's just watching me. Be good to have a video of that today. But he's like, "What the hell were you doing?" And my future wife at the time told him later, he was lighting himself on fire. On purpose? Oh, of course not. So that was, you know, that's how that works. There's a black towards your back. That black is a hole. That's where the light used to be. There is now a LED light. The black hole, that black hole is the attic. So, where you can get into the attic. That's where the monsters live. Or when I come home, I bring them home and I put them up in the attic. Release them up there to run around at night. That's a very hot place right now. I keep it open because I can turn the fans in here and it helps draw some of the heat out of the attic. I can throw firewood all day long, but I do not want to tie my shoes. That is a very me type of thing. Okay, funny but not funny. The stick man is up there. Well, the stick man is out there. Maybe he is. I don't know if he's out there, up there, down there, around there. Stick man in there? I don't know. I don't even know what's up there anymore. That's been a forgotten place. And I'm not going up there to look. Not at least until December. So, yeah, who knows what's up in there. I see something. I don't know what it is. Okay. But, there you go. Dark places. So that's where I train for summer. That's how I used to train for summer in the Superstitions. Go up in the attic and just sit up there for an hour or two. It's where all your treasures are quiet. Have you ever tried to find that place where you said you could step inside of it and see people coming, but you couldn't see until you were on it? Thinking some friends camp there. I know the place you're talking about. So, have you ever tried to find that place where you said you could step and see people? I know, no, I know the place you're talking about, so I don't know if you're saying it right or it's not coming out right. There is a place where you can sit there and look down and see a trail and see people on the trail. They could never see you in a million years. It's really odd places. And Randy and I found that. We were up there several different times. And we found that really kind of interesting because we could tell people had cleared spots to be able to watch the trails. And that was interesting to me because why do you have like a sentry post, not a guard post, sentry post, a lookout area where you're watching what's downhill where nothing, you're keeping an eye on things. So I don't know. But yeah, it's hard to be in the presence of the mind of the Dutch hunters of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even some, well, the 80s definitely, and the 90s when they closed the mining down because they were on the lookout for the Forestry Service. I haven't seen anyone from the Forestry Service in the back hills of the mountains probably in 30 years. So I don't know. I'm sure they might go out to do something, fix a trail sign or something, but I don't see them. I see them in a truck in the parking lot, and they get out of the truck once in a while and come out and talk, go use the bathroom, and then they leave. So there you go. Can't blame you. It's different type. Yeah, and heat's different. I used to I would go back in the summer and had family back around Steubenville, Ohio. And I used to go back there, Ohio, in July and August. And I used to enjoy running there because of the sweat. I always thought it was easier to run in the heat back east in the humidity and then it was in the dry heat here. The dry heat here is just hard on you. The ground is hard. The ground is hot. The reflection of the heat is bad. And I remember back east running and thinking, yeah, you sweat a lot. You got to drink a lot of water. But it wasn't anywhere near as bad. I felt like I could breathe better with the humidity than here. The dry heat can almost just it's so hard. So, and that comes from someone who used to be, no longer, do not make any claim for many, many years of this, but yeah, I was a long distance runner. And I would take that over here. And growing up running cross country and marathons in this heat, it's a killer, man. It's tough. And part of it is definitely is in the springs and summers is just that heat coming back up at you. You got to do it early because once it gets later, man, it saps you. And you can feel it, man, through your shoes. That's me, like you walked in there. were flat stones. This wasn't flat stones. This was area cleared out behind bushes and weird stuff. So, but I remember we kind of ran into it, kept trying to look around. I wish we would have had more time and Randy hadn't broken his foot and we would have gotten a few more trips up in there. I do got pictures somewhere. I have a lot of pictures of that area. My second ex-wife from Missouri and 4th of July is brutal. It's from Missouri and 4th of July is brutal. Yeah, Missouri could be brutal. I can see that. Kansas, Oklahoma, Panhandle of Texas. I think it's just heat's different places and stuff. I finally have decided not to go out and sit out in the 4th of July heat all day for 4th of July. I remember even doing that before I had kids, and then I had kids, and then we started doing the stuff like go to Prescott, go to Camp Verde, go different places and watch fireworks out of town, which was nice. But yeah, I remember going to the state capitol and sitting outside all evening, and it's like, man, this is so great to watch fireworks and just die here in the heat on the hot ground. Thanks for doing the missing person video, Cayman Welch. No problem. That was all Mike Cotter and Brian Welch. That was the thing, is like, hey, could we do something like that? Yeah, but this is what it should be. And that was what I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be an episode or something for views or anything like that. I didn't want it to be a mystery. I wanted it to be just, here's the facts that we can give you from the last person that saw him and was with him that day. And that kind of rules out a lot of speculation. And that's what I wanted the video. When they both agreed, said, yeah, that would be perfect. And Brian agreed to do it. Kudos to him. Anybody that knows Brian, or if you ever meet him, just say thank you, because it was a lot, man. Nobody really pushed him on it. I don't know why he agreed in that moment, but he was very nice, came out. He got very emotional. I could tell it was a lot just to kind of go back through that. So it was very good of him, very cool of him. I'm thankful he did that for them, himself and the family. And you hope something comes of it. It would be nice if it does. If nothing else, it keeps people a little focused on it. Wow, we went through it. Well, I guess the first 15, 20 minutes was a total nightmare. We'll spend a few more minutes here before we close up. But we didn't get a lot of Dutch hunting in. But some weeks, that's just the way it is. But yes, I know I had the one on the bank draft and that type of stuff. I've never been totally sure. I was pretty much thought, because Julia never is quoted by anyone much about that stuff, about Jacob talking about his family much, but she had an address, and she talked about, I got his sister's address or whatever, and I wrote her that he passed away. He asked me to do that, and I have it around the house somewhere. I'll look for it, and then there's nothing really else about it. So that to me was kind of like, okay, so I don't know if he was sending them anything. I don't know if he was sending stuff off the mints. I think there's such gross exaggeration, and then there were people that have always enjoyed, and I don't understand it, but creating their own fictional accounts and material that support their fictional accounts to try to find a lost mine that they can't find with fictional accounts. That just drives me crazy, because you're doing yourself a disservice and everyone else. Yeah, there's always going to be a missing hiker, always in Arizona. That's 657. Okay, I can't even. Okay, well, hi to you too. But that's going to happen through the summer. There was that girl. Was it the girl you were talking about? That wandered off from camp, and they don't know why, and she ended up they found her finally, but which is a good thing. But that's going to happen every summer. Families go up, people wander off. It's easy to wander off and get turned around, and especially if you're not someone that goes out all the time, or it's an unfamiliar area, it's very easy to be walking and not have a sense of direction and get turned around in an unfamiliar place. and then realize everything looks kind of the same, and you haven't really been paying. That was my last story, is like, I was in a familiar place, and because I really wasn't in a mind to watch what I was doing, I suddenly found myself in the uncomfortable position of saying, I don't know where I'm at. That does happen. It happened to Frank a few times with us, where I tend to, when we go into the same place, try to find different routes in there, slightly different routes. And Frank, I know on camera at one point, says, this is not the way we go. Where are we going? This is not the way. And it was the way. It was just 20, 30 feet, I think, to the right. But I wanted to go through and explore it and kind of take it off the list and cover all the ground we could. But it didn't take much for Frank to suddenly realize, I'm not familiar with this, where are we? And then 50, 60 feet later, he realized, oh, this is where we're at. So it worked out. Apple orchards and gardens full of vegetables. Okay. Morbid minds, you can't fix. Stupid. Rivas guy had a nice spread. Yeah, Rivas had a nice place. Good vegetables, apples. That was a good ranch, and a lot of people worked that ranch. Clemens worked that ranch. Frazier worked that ranch. Unfortunately, people just kept going out and vandalizing, and then finally burned it down. Tom had some good stories about that place. Some strange people that would show up when they were camped up there and stuff. But my gosh, there's a breeze out there. There you go. Always carrying my dad's World War. Well, and compass is fine, but like, you're up with your family camping somewhere and you're just chilling. You're not thinking, I need to keep my compass on me. And it depends how you were raised. To me, it was that thing. Remember, there's those people that say, always bring a handkerchief and a pocket knife and blah, 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 blah. And there are people like that that always carry certain rudimentary things on them. Anytime I'm in the mountains, I have a compass, and I have certain things, and I have my fire starting kit, and I have things because it's come in very handy. Randy and I were out one time, and it was rainy and cold, and we ended up in a situation where everything was soaking wet. And the only reason we got a fire going and kind of took the chill off of us when we were trying to come out of the mountains, it didn't save our lives, but it was pleasant. The only reason that happened was because I had my flint and I had my knife, and we were able to make a fire, a simple fire. So it's kind of funny that I don't think Trevor or Tyler would think of that type of stuff nowadays, but there's rudimentary things that you think, oh, I should always carry this. And nowadays people think, oh, well, I'll carry a satellite phone and I'll carry a GPS unit and this and that and everything else. And they just think that's going to be the safe way. I got 2 liters of water and I have a filtration unit, and then you get in, there's no water, get turned around, your batteries go dead, and then everything just goes wrong. And that topo map or Jack Carlson's hiking guidebook can be amazing. Always leave a trail of raw bacon. Well, that's an idea. Well, I don't know, something will eat the raw bacon. But the breadcrumb idea, which a lot of people do and stuff. You can see footsteps, you can see your own track. I tried to get the boys to do that in the side yard at one summer. Is the dirt, we'd cleaned up the side yard and there was a lot of dirt there, and I tried to have them like, okay, we're going to walk through, and the dogs will walk through with us, and then each day you look and kind of see how the tracks change, and over 3 or 4 or 5 days, and kind of see what fresh tracks look like, and kind of just get an idea. It doesn't have to be an art, just have an idea of how things break down without rain. And when it rains, it's completely different. And told them it's always good to see that stuff, but they did not go out hunting like I did. When you go hunting, you see a lot of things that other people don't see. So it's different, The trail of raw bacon. That means you got to carry a lot of bacon if you're going far. And I don't know if I'd want to waste that much bacon. So we're going to finish up here because we are at 5:12 and I did 54 minutes on this. Sorry it ended up like this. I know sometimes everybody enjoys these ones where I'm in the pickup truck. Should have actually just went and drove around the neighborhood. Went back to the old pickup truck and because I'm in air conditioning, but I will survive it. Yeah, David and Larry and everybody else and Dallas, and it wasn't the Dutch hunting one this week, but we'll get back to it next week and cover some of it and some of what we've been covering. There's always fun stuff to talk about. But I'm going to get out of here too. Get inside, get something cold to drink. My ice cubes are long melted. So get myself something cold to drink and finish up off my evening. Everyone have a great weekend. Dedication. This isn't dedication. Dedication would be doing this out on a rock in the sun. That would be dedication or stupidity. This feels like more obligation. Have a great night, Wayne, and everyone. Hamburger, steak, onions, and peppers. I think it's pizza again tonight. Have a great weekend. You too, Dallas. Have a safe week. Yeah, everybody be safe. Come on, the heat's going to come down a little next week, but don't let that fool you. 98. 98's still hot, man. It's not time. I keep picking up the phone and getting it. Man, I look like a sweaty mess now, too. Well, there you go. I got the toxins out. So there you go. Why is the rum gone? Thanks, Wayne. Knife save. Well, we tried. We attempted. And this wasn't really a save. We got through it together, and we will see what happens next week. Thank you for hanging out with me in the laundry room. There's some hangers, clothes, and a little tour. But yeah, if I ever get this place cleaned up in here, it's interesting in here. A lot of relics, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of files, a lot of stuff. But until next week, everybody, join us again on Monday for Chasing Legends Rendezvous, November 14th, 15th, and 16th this fall. And we'll see you again next week. Hopefully we'll have our Wi-Fi issues taken care of. Before we go, stepping on that 2x6 I talked about earlier, we'll hit the blue sky. And the blue sky doesn't look as blue. It's really blue out, but the blue sky looks kind of hazy. But it is really blue. And it's so hot, my bunnies aren't out. Usually there's a bunch of these cottontails out in my front yard, but no bunnies. So until the next time, everybody enjoy the weekend. Have a good one. We will catch you later. And this is me saying adios until the next time. Now I got to figure out how to end this. I take it I just hit the X. Has it been that long? I guess so.